She won most talkative in high school, and she has been running her mouth ever since. Welcome to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast with your host, Lisa Fisher.
Okay, we've got the sweetheart of Alabama here, the fasting sweetheart of Alabama, April Hall, who we met when we had our black coffee water party. Jen Stevens was here, and it was the highlight of the last 10 years for me. And you drove in from Alabama to Little Rock, Arkansas, so that you could meet your fasting people. That makes me love you more.
I was not going to miss that event. And I'm not exactly sure how I ran across it in the DDD community, but
yeah.
I saw it and I told my husband, I was like, I never do things just for me, but I'm going to Little Rock, Arkansas to meet Jen Stevens. And I booked a flight even. And then at the last minute, he actually took off work and came with me. So we made a little mini vacay.
That's sweet.
Yes, I agree. The highlight of 2022.
It was great. So Jen Stevens, as we've mentioned, because somebody may be from another planet just now, this is their first podcast they're ever going to listen to. Jen Stevens is whom I call the mother of intermittent fasting because she's a lay authority. She does not have her medical degree like Dr. Fung does, but the girl knows about fasting. And so I brought her to my home and we hosted events for her in Little Rock and you're in Alabama. And DDD is the Delay Don't Deny group, which was she kind of pioneered Facebook groups because it seems like she ended up having like 500,000 members of that group and then started her own website, her Delay Don't Deny website, which was very, very smart.
Yes. I mean, I miss her on Facebook. I miss that big advanced DDD group, but her community is awesome. What she's built there is awesome. And
it's brilliant.
I applaud her for being brave. She was brave to leave Facebook and start her own.
And part of that was her ability to express her First Amendment rights to any opinion. And she is so apolitical. I don't know where she stands politically. So this isn't a political statement, but even if she said anything, she said, she's the one that started thinking, they own my words. They own my product. They own my photos. I want to own, she goes, these are my people. So she did a smart thing. And that's a monthly membership that you can do. But let's talk about it. You got into fasting. Tell me, you have like a fastiversary and a fasting anniversary, and you're a success story. I'm looking at you. So tell me about it.
So May 4th of 2020, I was at home in bed recovering from breast explant surgery. So really uneducated decision I made about 12 years ago to get breast implants. The most unresearched decision maybe of my life. And I call myself a lifelong learner. You know,
me too.
I Google everything to death, but my friend got some, they look good. And I said, I'm going to do that too. So fast forward, I hated them every day that I had them. And they just kind of long-term wreaked havoc on my health and my weight and all these things. And so I had decided to have those removed. Well, I'm a lifelong dieter. So I had yo-yoed 20, 25 pounds every other year, I say my entire adult life, ever since the birth of my first child. And at this point, for some reason, I was kind of already at an all-time high with my weight. I was kind of exhausted of dieting, the yo-yo, and I had decided on top of that I really wanted this explant surgery, and I wanted to try to just improve my health. And so when they take out the chest, you notice the belly. And I told this on Jen Stevens' podcast, and she laughed, but I said, honestly, proportionally, I had not noticed how big I had gotten. But I still, like I said, I had a few weeks in bed where I couldn't exercise. I like to exercise. I'm high energy. I'm gone. My husband's saying for her, she's gone. She's out of the bed and
she's gone.
She's gone. And that's the joke at my house. Like if I got a new vacuum cleaner for Christmas and I run it every day and my son said, are you gone?
I love it.
So anyway, I was just in a bad place. I was in a bad place mentally, physically recovering from surgery, really, really unhappy with my new physique. I'll say that. But still, mentally, I did not want to diet again. And I'm scrolling through Facebook, and one of my friends posted a bottle of salad dressing that she had gotten at the local strawberry farm. And she said, I'm going to break my 20-hour fast with this salad dressing. And so I just messaged her and said, okay, what you doing? Like, what's going on? And honestly, her best answer was just read the book. You know, she pointed me to Delay Don't Deny, Jen's first book. Yeah. And she even told me, You don't even have to buy it. You can get on Audible, and if you're not an Audible member, you'll get these free downloads. And so
Good.
I had it in my ears, in my AirPods, in just a matter of a few hours, and
Yes.
life changing.
Well, part of it is Jen's appeal to those of us in the South with her Southernisms, and she was in Georgia for years. I think they may have moved over to South Carolina. She may have a beach home now, but Augusta, Georgia, we could identify with her. And and anyone listening, if you want to download a book, if there's a book you haven't downloaded and that combines science and practical application for how to implement a lifestyle of fasting. And as Jen says, we come for the health benefits, but we stay for the weight loss. So it's really what fasting does. We now know the science, more about the science and how it mitigates our insulin. If insulin drops, then amazing, 90% of our healthcare concerns also dissipate. What were some of the first things? Because you really may not lose weight at first. You might lose a pound here or there. But I think people, April, once the inflammation drops, they start feeling better. What were your first things that you started going, this is going to work?
Well, so immediately I fell in love with Jen, the Southern
Mhm.
drawl.
Yes.
And it was like hearing your girlfriend tell you what she's doing, and how it changed her life. And so, but she did drop some science in Delay Don't Deny about insulin.
Yes.
And she points you to Dr. Fung.
Yes.
And so, that little 4-hour book turned into The Obesity Code was next. And
for sure.
The Obesity Code rocked my world. And I tell this, so my family is riddled with type 2 diabetes on both sides. And my dad, who was my best friend in the world, passed away at a young age of 62 years old from diabetic heart disease. And so and his dad, before him, 67, lost a toe and then a foot and a leg. And that was back in the era when they really didn't know what to do with type 2 diabetes. So I have two brothers, older brothers, one who was diagnosed at age 40. And, that's about the age I was already 42 when I found this. But, and then another brother who also kind of struggles with those things. And my mom is type 2. And I was like, I do not want to go down this path. But we didn't know how to avoid it. I mean, we just did not know. And so when I read the Obesity Code, I cried because I thought my dad would have had a fighting chance with this information.
Well, let
he was on the
me stop
pump.
you there. Did you know that, and this may be changing, but until just recently, medical providers tell type 2 diabetics, you can't cure it, we'll manage it. And
That's
now
right.
we know, even Dr. Fung says, and Dr. Hyman says, and Ben Bickman, the PhD, they all say, no, you can reverse it. So
Completely reverse.
Your dad was told, and he did what his doctor told him. His doctor told him to eat 5 times a day, to eat small meals. And we know all that did was jack up his insulin. So now we know type 2 diabetes is 100% reversible, and we don't have to manage it. You can throw away the medicine and get off the medicine. Were you at that point? Because now we understand that before you're even diagnosed, 10 to 15 years, you're pre-diabetic. But nobody knows because they're not checking fasting insulin. Did you have any markers, April, at that time besides your weight?
So I had never had fasting insulin taken. I don't think I even had an A1C to compare it to. So I'm kind of notorious for avoiding doctors and traditional medicine and pharmaceuticals and all that.
Yes.
I have a stepson who just graduated from the School of Pharmacy, and I just cringe. But
I know.
I mean, whatever.
But let's say, we want to say, so we just had an illness with a daughter who was avoiding medicines. And finally, by the time she got to the doctor with her salmonella, that was from Thailand, it had jumped the track and it called sepsis. And that's when her medical provider said, this is when we need medicine. It's going to save your life. So I want to say, just because I understand where you're coming from, we're not anti-medicine. We don't want a pill for every ill. We want it if we have sepsis and we have to take an antibiotic for, in her case, 4 to 6 weeks. So I know where you're coming from, that if you needed medicine, if you broke your leg and had to have pain medicine, or if you had an infection, you would absolutely take it. But we're not going shopping for pills.
No. And and I much prefer a nutritional answer if
Me
there
too.
is one. So,
Yeah.
so I did not have that lab work, but now my sense, I had been fasting about a year the last time I got labs, and my fasting insulin was 3.1.
Awesome.
And when
Great.
I asked for a fasting insulin, her response was, "Why?" And I said, "Can I just have it?"
I need you to say that again. When
Right.
you
When I
asked your
asked,
provider,
yes, when I asked for fasting insulin, she said, "Why do you want that? Why do you need that?" And and I said, they are moving away from the old science. They say that's an indicator of prediabetes, 10,
yes,
15 years, insulin resistance,
yes,
and nobody's looking for it. And she was very gracious. She's a nurse practitioner, young,
good,
full,
good,
vibrant,
great.
and she did order it. So 3.1, I think my A1C was like 5 even
Yeah,
or something
probably.
like that.
Yeah.
So I do not plan to repeat the family tradition of type 2
Oh, you
diabetes.
just you broke it. You
Yeah,
broke the curse, and you threw it in the cheddar cheese, bacon wrapped pickled garbage, whatever they ate.
exactly.
You would eat that could get you there. And I want to remind people: so fasting insulin, Dr. Bickman says, Dr. Ben Bickman, and Why We Get Sick he says really a 15 to 20 year predictability on type 2 diabetes, cancer, dementia. I mean, all the things. So a lot of times by the time somebody does check it, because he explains, and you probably know this, your body, because we're fearfully and wonderfully made, is what the Bible says, our blood glucose will still manage between, it'll be 105, 110, which is too high,
Right.
but your A1C is still about 5.4, 5.5. They're like, that's fine. No, you need to peel back the covers and you find something in there and you go, oh crap, my fasting. I had a client, her fasting insulin, okay, get this, her A1C was normal, her glucose was normal, her fasting insulin was 40.
Right.
And it
Off the
shouldn't
chart.
be over 5. I mean,
Right.
5 or 6. Hyman says we wanted that's now we're trying to get that the average, but he goes, we'd like to see it even lower. So anything under 5 really reduces your risk of all these different diseases. And you did it. So that was 1 year of fasting
1 year. Yes. And it's
because
time to repeat those labs.
yeah.
And I'm excited. That should be in the next month or so to see if it's gotten even better. Although I think those are pretty spot on
Yeah, no,
markers.
that's pretty impressive. Your C-reactive protein is probably low. That's your high sensitivity HSCRP. You can ask your provider for. Those are just markers of inflammation too. And if you ask a cancer doctor or heart doctor, what causes cancer? What causes cardiovascular disease? They'll go, oh, inflammation. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what causes high inflammation? High insulin. See,
Right.
it's a domino effect. See, you just knocked down the biggest domino, and so nothing else. I mean, you really have wrapped up a lot in your health. So I can imagine how much better you're feeling. So you started May 4th, 2020, and you listened to the book. What was your first fasting and feasting schedule?
So I think that I tried maybe 16/8 once, and then I thought Jen said 19 was her sweet spot,
Yeah,
19/5, and
yeah,
she talked about the fast 5 and those things, and I thought, oh,
yeah.
I can do
Mhm.
that. And so then immediately I tried to get to 19, but I landed at 20 and 4 probably in the first 2 weeks.
Really?
And
That's pretty aggressive. You must be a rip the band-aid off type person.
I'm all in, all or nothing.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
But I've noticed, because I have been health coaching and fasting coaching people for a couple of years, there are some that are sucking their thumb, breathing into a paper bag in a fetal position when I tell them 16 and 8.
16/8.
They
Yes.
get so anxious. I didn't have a choice. My son just told me 18 and 6. Like, I thought it was in the Bible somewhere,
Right.
18 and 6, and you didn't do it another way. So I just did it. And then it was easy to ease into that 20 and 4. I think I love 19 and 5, 20 and 4. I mean, it just
Right.
depends what's going on in my life. So, did you cut out any foods or anything? Because I didn't know to do anything to, again, mitigate insulin or carb reduction in the beginning because I didn't know.
Well, I loved the idea that we could eat whatever we wanted.
Yeah,
We're
me
going to
too.
reward ourselves. And like Jen says, challenge accepted. So in the very beginning, no, I was like, and I own a restaurant, so Southern restaurant, but I was like bacon cheeseburger, French fries,
Good.
things I would not touch now. But
I know.
I did not
Right.
change my food. I learned to fast. And I tell my people that learn to fast, build your fasting muscle. And if it takes
Absolutely.
a reward meal to get through that next fast, you're going to have something great, then do that. And so But I think that fat adaptation and appetite correction happened pretty quick for me. And so, that next phase is my body is asking for broccoli and steak every meal, like 4 times a week, I'm eating a ribeye and broccoli. And that is not like in my whole adult life, I wished I liked vegetables and green things, but I did not like anything bitter. I think black coffee, guys, if I could get people to drink black coffee, I think it opens your palate to all things bitter. And then you can eat asparagus and Brussels sprouts and broccoli.
Brussels sprouts. Yeah. That probably makes sense.
All those things.
One of my clients who's received a lot of notoriety here in Arkansas, he came that day earlier in the day when we had the private party for Jen here, because he is the executive chef, award-winning chef. He just won Proprietor of the Year in Arkansas at the Pine Bluff Country Club. And he started at 380 and he's 280 now. And he called me about 3 months into fasting, because he's been an award-winning chef since he was in his teens, and he's 62 now, right? He called me and he said, hello. And he goes, damn you, Lisa Fisher. And I go, what? He goes, I'm craving Brussels sprouts. He said, same thing. I'm a chef. I've cooked them, never wanted them. He said the craziest thing has happened. So there must be something biologically, April, with our bodies, that when we get our insulin regulated. Because remember, Dr. Fung says you're hormonally wired to eat and to stop eating. So when you get your hormonal wiring to eat and to stop eating, then when you go to eat again, that's when we say you open your feasting window. You really do look for highly nutritious, yes, with high nutrient density that we never cared about before.
So, Lori Lewis, one of my favorite quotes from her is that intermittent fasting is not a diet, it's a quiet. And I think there's something about that quiet that allows us to hear what our body has been screaming at us. And so I went through several phases of really strange cravings, and
like what?
One of them was tuna and boiled eggs. Yeah,
high fat and protein.
Yes.
Think about it.
I went through a sweet potato phase, and so I tell that I always thought a sweet potato looked good, and I loved the idea of it. But no, there was no way you could make it that I would eat it.
Really?
And I started craving, like mentally craving a sweet potato. And I remember the first one I cooked, I did it in the microwave, and I ate it all the way down to the skin. And my husband looked at me like I was insane, because he said, he loves them, and he's like, I thought you hated that, and I said, that was the best thing maybe I've ever had.
Now, what does your restaurant? What does your restaurant serve? What do you all know?
Okay, so my parents had an old catfish house, Southern Catfish House, for 28 years here in Eva, small town. And
where are you? Where's that near?
Okay, so we are an hour north of Birmingham, Alabama, or like 45 minutes south of Huntsville.
Yes.
But population 800, we are in the country. But so they were known for fried catfish and fried shrimp and
yum,
all of that. One of our things, I probably sell the most hamburgers. I hear your ad on your podcast for the hamburger place in Arkansas, and I think that's got to be similar, because we get fresh ground beef every day. We pat it out by hand. We cook it on the flat grill.
Isn't it delicious?
You cannot beat it. You can't buy anything like that in town.
No. And let me tell you, for those of us who eat a carnivore way, Dr. Saladino says this all the time. It's really the most affordable way to eat, because you can get ground beef, you can eat eggs, butter, if you can tolerate cheese and milk. And so every restaurant I go to, because that's the majority of my food, everybody has a hamburger. Yeah. Now I want one of your hamburgers. What's the name of your restaurant?
It's called Bobby's, and Bobby was my dad, so it's BOBBY''S.
Okay.
But so we actually won the best chicken tenders in Alabama in 2021 statewide competition.
Gosh.
I'm so famous.
You buried the lead.
Go to YouTube and watch me be on Simply Southern TV. It's country. I know this is going to be the same. Country is cornbread.
I love it.
But so we were in a magazine. We were on TV. We're kind of a big deal. But so we do hand breaded tenders, and that the poultry industry keeps this town floating.
Oh,
and
good.
So, we're proud that we serve lots and lots and lots of chicken tenders. But I still do fried catfish, and I do shrimp a whole bunch of ways, grilled, boiled, fried, butterflied, everything.
Are you a cook?
I'm the cook. I like I'm the head. So
Gosh.
listen, full-time cook. And I say cook, not chef, because we are not fancy. I showed you the 10 on the wall and
Love it.
not fancy, but so I do a plate lunch at lunchtime, and it's honestly like if you ate with your mom.
That's
And
our
I do
favorite.
chicken and dressing, which you're carnivore, but chicken and dressing, meatloaf,
Yes.
chicken casserole, different things, and vegetables and all that stuff at lunchtime. It's a family-owned Southern restaurant. That's the
I
best way I
love
could
it.
describe it. But we're famous here because at nighttime we're the only place here. We have a little another little cafe that she does breakfast and lunch, and I don't do breakfast. We both handle lunch, and then I do dinner. But it's hole in the wall, mom and pop. Can't beat it.
Okay, well, then you come from the same perspective. Chef Jamie McAfee could do 3-day fasts, even in the kitchen, preparing delicious foods for people all across the state of Arkansas. And you're doing the same thing there in Alabama. You're cooking while you're in the fasted state. Did you ever think you would do that?
Well, of course, I had never heard of fasting, and I would have
Yeah.
told you were
But
insane
even in the
if you had suggested it.
beginning, you
Well,
thought, I can't do
okay.
that.
So the thing about me is I tell people I have an unfair advantage in that I'm ADHD, and when I say that, my brain
I think it's
goes
our
in
advantage.
1,000 directions. Okay, and so I say that when I am eating, I turn that side of my brain on, and when I am not, I turn it off. And I'm doing a million other things. I'm busy.
I get it.
Like my hands are in the food. I smell the food, but it's not eating time, so that's just not where I'm thinking.
Okay, you are all or nothing. I can see that though. I know just in preparing food for my family in longer fasts, you just do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, Chef Jamie always says the hardest time when he tries not to do duck season is big for us in Arkansas, and people come in from all over the country, and he cooks at one of the premier duck clubs. And he said that's the only time that when he smells the biscuit and the gravy, my mouth's about to water, and the
That's
bacon
right.
is frying. He said, when I'm on a 3-day fast, that's the only time I'm thinking, dang it. That's the hardest time.
Bacon and popcorn are the two hardest smells to fight through. And like I could be fasted for 40 hours, not one hunger pain, walk into a gym, watch my kid play basketball, and I am assaulted by the popcorn. Assaulted. My stomach will start growling, my mouth is watering, and I'm like, you just broke my fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, now there is some science to what you're saying, but I remember Jen Stevens saying, don't worry about what you can't control you can't control, because you're referencing the cephalic phase study, which shows that in the brain, that's why they use like walking through the corridor of the airport and Cinnabon, and how they woo you at the airport, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or
assault.
if you go gambling or anything, they
Right.
woo you with these smells. And so there was a study, I think it was a rat study, that showed the rats that smelled the, let's say, Cinnabon, and those that didn't, they released insulin because their body was prepping for the food that was coming in.
I believe that.
Isn't that funny?
Yes, but once you break your fast and the insulin is released is when I experience hunger.
Oh, that is the most hunger.
Yeah, and so I'm like, that broke my fast. My stomach is now growling, and I've been fine all day.
So I'm a home cook, and I know in the very beginning some of the mistakes, because in fact, before we even started this podcast, I'm doing teriyaki chicken bowls for dinner. I fried some bacon because I want my granddaughters to be carnivores. And I'm doing rice, strawberry shortcake. It's strawberry season in Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
So I prepped all that before we came up here. We did this at 4. But in the beginning, I was always a food taster of my own foods because I don't measure.
I don't either.
Both advantage of ADD and disadvantage, because I don't know how I made it. I just know it's really good. So, but I wasn't cooking for a restaurant. I was just cooking for my family. So then I got my husband to taste the spaghetti sauce or the soup that I made because I don't measure. How have you managed at the restaurant because you're not tasting?
Well, okay. So another advantage, I have an early window. So I tried to do the dinner window, and I wanted to kill people before dinner came. And so I said, one day I thought I'm going to do like brunch, and then I'm going to eat like a late lunch. So we work a lunch shift. and then we break and we eat together. And I say we eat as a family. Round table, I could show you these round tables. We sit at this table together and eat, me and my employees. And usually that's whatever was left from lunch or whatever we had on special.
Is it like
or whatever.
2:00 or what?
2:00. My
Okay.
window is 10 to 2. And so we close at
Okay.
1:30. That's when we sit down. But so I come in and I'm busy. You know, like I say, ADHD brain, time
very
escapes
busy.
me. I'm busy and I'm behind and I'm not thinking, but about 10 o'clock I will break. And so I have usually small meal, big snack, maybe bacon and eggs.
Yep.
I'm really not carnivore, and I'm really into yogurt, banana, and organic granola right now.
It sounds delicious.
It's so good. But I might have that. And so then at least I am in the midst of doing the lunch special. And so that's when I make all my homemade sauces and things for all day. So I can taste, you know, the fast is already broken. I can taste, I can do whatever I need to do. And then at nighttime, it's more straight menu and I don't have to taste anything. So,
well, the one other thing, so things that we learn about ourselves when you become a lifelong faster is, number one, this is going to sound crazy to those of you who've never fasted. Food makes you hungry. Wait, what?
Absolutely.
You're the least hungry when you haven't eaten, because if you understand the science, and pituitary or the hypothalamus sends insulin, and once insulin comes in, it's a fat storing hormone, it drops your blood glucose, and that's what gives you, that's when you're the hungriest. So when you have that snack at, you know, or breakfast at 10, we would call it, you're breaking your fast. Sometimes that's why sometimes I have to have my bigger meal. It's the meal I open, because I'm kind of hungrier, and then I close my window later in the day with maybe a couple boiled eggs and a piece of bacon, because
so it's not uncommon. Me too, and I'm a volume eater, and I really do think that once you break your fast, or for me, that instinct takes over, and I really need to reach satiety sometimes, you know, before I can stop, and I don't want to snack uncontrollably. So I very often that break fast turns into my biggest meal. And then when lunch, you know, 1:30 rolls around, maybe a snack, maybe nothing. I'm a lot of times one and done these days. And that's because I can put away more food in an hour than some people do all day. But I can. And my brain likes that. So I told Jen, you know, like, she wants to do everything in the fasted state. She says she's sharper and all these things. Well, I am manic without food. And so when I eat, it calms me down. You know, so I might eat at 10 and just eat a whole lot of food. And then I am calm as a cucumber until tomorrow. But, you know, different strokes for different folks. There are times I can do my banana and finish. And if it's something I'm really looking forward to at 1:30, you know, the big lunch, I'll do that. Yeah. But it's not at this far in, I don't worry about it. If I'm hungry, I eat until I'm not hungry. If I'm not hungry, I might not eat at all until 1:30. You know, so, but a lot of times I am a true one meal a dayer, but that meal is not small. You know,
that's what people don't understand is now, once you get seasoned, I would never walk through Costco and take a bite of the snack that they provide, because then I need to sit down and have a meal.
Me too, immediately.
Yes. Once the insulin comes in, it tells me I'm hungry then. So I don't grab a few grapes in the morning, or, you know, what we used to do when we made our kids lunches or whatever.
What about a granola bar? Mm-hmm.
Never, nothing.
Never.
Well, that's also, I mean, you could probably address this better than anybody, but it's breaking your fast with carbs will make you sick in about 30 minutes because of what the blood sugar regulation, what it does. True satiety is from, I mean, Dr. Fung talks about this when he talks about cholecystokinin and peptide YY. Those are the two hormones that are sent to tell you that you're getting full, and they're only in fat and protein.
Right.
So that's why the salad makes you hungrier.
Right. So interesting little experiment of one that I had lately. So I eat raw walnuts every day. Okay. Every day. I mean, I don't know why or when I started this, but it's every day. And I was out, you know, you get the great big bag at Sam's. We do Sam's Club instead of Costco, but you can do, so we can just always have them around, and it might be 2 or 3, but a lot of times I'll close my window with a couple of raw walnuts.
They're really good for you too.
I had 2 or 3 days where I thought I was starving absolutely to death. I even messaged Amy Jo and I said, is the moon full? Like, I'm starving. This is out of character. What is going on? And then I got to thinking, because you got to be honest with yourself sometimes. Am I eating
Yes.
too much sugar? Have I had
Yes.
processed garbage?
Yes.
I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
And the only thing I could come up with, I had been out of walnuts. And so that is probably one of my biggest sources of good fat. And
Oh,
so
very
like
good.
that gets me to mental satiety. It's like my body, when I have that healthy fat, I'm finished. But I think maybe because I wasn't having that, I wasn't getting there, and I'd be hungry again. I mean, because I'd be 4 or 5 hours after my window is closed, and I'm like, I could go eat a big meal. And
Oh,
that's out of
really?
character.
Here's a cooking tip. You've probably done this, but it's because I do this for my granddaughters. I roast the sweet potatoes and cube them and put avocado oil, salt and pepper. And then sometimes I put toasted walnuts on top. It gives it a little crunch. You can even do raisins or craisins with it. It's kind of a carby meal. I would eat it for me at the end of my feasting window because I'm not a I'm not picketing the vegetable manufacturers of the world. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying for me, I'm trying to bring down some autoimmune conditions, and that's why I've adopted a carnivore lifestyle. But not that I've even had a sweet potato, but I'm not against them.
Right.
It's not a religion what I do.
Right.
I still like highly nourishing foods, and there are times that if I need a sweet potato. But the walnuts are really good for you. My daughter always reminds me, because she's also a health coach, that walnuts look like brains. They're like, and they give you brain health. She said they're very valuable for your health. So
Maybe
we do
that's
try
what I
to.
have to have.
Yeah, that's what I definitely need. Okay, so in May 4th, 2020, you don't have to tell what your weight was,
Oh,
but
I don't care.
what was the number then and what's the number now?
So that was my all-time high that I was not pregnant. So it was 171.5 pounds. And that is exactly what I weighed when I gave birth to my second 2 children.
And you were 42 at that time?
Yes. 42 years old.
Yeah. You know what starts happening late 30s and early 40s. And what people don't realize, and for those of you who aren't a part of the girl club, your female hormones, starting with progesterone, start to dip after 35. Thyroid also starts to dip. And that's why all of a sudden it was at 42 that I woke up with 15 extra pounds and went, I haven't done anything. I'm not eating Cheetos. Nothing had changed. And it was all about that time. So part of that was your hormonal changes. And what do you tip the scales at now?
So like today, probably about 130, but
so 40 pounds.
I lost 45 pounds like fast. Like so everybody says, what was your goal weight? Honestly, in a dream, okay?
Yes.
In a dream, maybe 140. I thought if I could get back to 145, I would just be like ecstatic. I mean, that's really what I thought, 171. And so I lost 45 pounds in 5 months.
Unbelievable.
And then it just stopped. Not one more pound, not one more ounce.
And you're not up a pound or down a pound. You probably keep with 3 to 5 pound.
I do. I stay. So in the last 6 months, I'll say I hover closer to 130 and, or 130, even 131, but my clothes fit exactly the same. Like I have not in 3 years since I got there, my 5-month weight loss, I have not pulled out one item that did not fit. I can never say in my adult life that happened, that the seasons change and I just pull out my clothes and they just fit.
Isn't that one of the most freeing things because we'll have winter here like you all do, and then it'll be summer the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And for me to go from winter, because those are always our fluffier clothes, to summer, which are skimpier clothes, and my size 6s and 8s fit last season like they did the year before. I don't have to suck in. I don't have to go, and that is from the confidence of being metabolically flexible, which is what happens, meaning your body goes in and out of fat burning and sugar burning. And when your fasting insulin is low, this is honestly the truth, April. It would be hard for you to gain weight because your fasting insulin is so low.
Right. Fat storing is low. People don't understand that. You can't get them to wrap their mind around that. It's not about calories.
It's not about
macros. It's
it's not.
Your fasting insulin and your other hormones, of course, too.
That's right. I mean, it is a symphony. One of my friends calls it the symphony. we're like a two-trick pony, and we go and speak to groups, and I do the satiety hormones and she does the sex hormones, and she does talk about the symphony of hormones because we have about 50 or so chemical messengers that communicate, and we do want them sharp, because this is also what I noticed recently. Now, I don't look at the scale. I only know what I weigh because when I have my pellet, my estradiol pellet, which is quarterly, she says hop on the scale and it's the same every time. I mean, I go, oh, and my blood pressure is like 100/70. It's like stupid low,
Right.
or 95 or something, whatever. And I only know that because the provider writes it down. But with what happened with my daughter getting sick recently, she was in the hospital. My hunger spiked because I started making cortisol.
Stress, yes.
Couldn't
Absolutely.
control it. And I wanted comfort food, but because I'm trying to bring down my autoimmune conditions, I'm completely off gluten. Thoughts and prayers. I mean, y'all need to pray for me. It's been hard. It was since March 1st, but who's counting?
Wow.
Like, I haven't even had even at church, I get the gluten-free wafer, what I mean? Because I'm trying to calm down all these, my vitiligo and all these other things.
Mm-hmm.
But during that, when she was in the hospital, I wanted some of Bobby's food bad.
Yes.
I mean, it is crazy because of maybe emotional thing. I don't know, but
it is definitely stress, cortisol.
I was so hungry. And again, I don't care. I don't think I gained. I mean, I didn't gain weight. I mean, everything fits the same, so it doesn't matter. But it does show what our hormones can do, even when you're doing everything right. I was doing everything right with fasting, as I always have, but I couldn't control the stress that was coming to my body.
And I think that the idea of homeostasis, so what I loved about the obesity code was that Dr. Fung kept talking about dialing down your apostat and creating a new set weight, because I'm going to tell you, I was the queen of lose weight, gain weight. There was never a time I was not bouncing up or down. And so that was like, in a dream world, you would lose the weight and keep it off. It never happened like that for me. So this is the only time in my life that I can say whatever was out of balance got balanced. And that doesn't mean I won't have times, like we went to Jamaica. I bought my husband a trip to Jamaica for Christmas, and we went to this all-inclusive, and like they're handing you a dirty banana. I don't know if you know what that is, at 10 a.m. It's a drink made with a real whole banana, like this really ripe banana, and dark rum and cream, I think.
Sounds delicious.
It's just barely sweet enough to be like, I could drink a lot of this, but you can't, because you would never sit and eat 2 bananas,
Right.
But anyway, we did that for a week, and I had a few days that were like 10-hour eating windows or 12 or something crazy.
That's right.
But by the third day, I'm like, I don't want to do that again.
I
feel terrible. Right. I don't need breakfast. I don't need drinks at 10 a.m.
Right.
And, I calmed it down to like a 4, 5, 6 hour window, something like that. But my body, when I get crazy, it craves homeostasis. And it will tell me, you're not hungry today. You overfueled yesterday. And so today, we're just not going to do it. And it's not me having to say, I've got to be good tomorrow.
You don't have to punish yourself.
No, it wants to go back to its happy place. And so that, to me, is why fasting is different. Like it just regulates whatever's off. And homeostasis is attainable for the first time ever.
It is. It's something I explain to my fasting clients. I say, because I said, if you treat your body like, your husband might a Maserati, or somebody, like the finest car on the road. I don't know anything about cars. So Rolls Royce or whatever. You only put the finest gas. You make sure you change the oil. If you can, keep it in a garage, all these things, right? I say, if you think of your body that way and you put the finest fuel in it, and then what happens when you put too much fuel in it? The thing clicks, even on the cheap cars. But I'm saying, if you're treating your body like this precious prize, right? And it clicks, it tells you've had enough. I said, that's what will happen finally with your body when you reach what we're talking about is appetite correction. The apostat is the part of the brain that tells you, well, by golly, I'm full. Your apostat wakes up. And Dr. Bert Herring talks about it in his books, if you want to look him up. But as the fuel pump clicks, then you can drive around on that tank for a couple of days. And then all of a sudden, you're empty again. Your fuel tank's empty. Yeah. And your body tells you it's the same. The light goes off when you're about at a quarter tank or eighth of a tank. Your light goes off telling you, well, by golly, it's time to eat again. And that's what we never thought, because we were using external regulations to tell us it was time to eat, or it was time to stop, or you have to have, 2 more ounces of chicken breast to be righteous, because that's what you're supposed to do. And now we're like, I don't want any more chicken breast. In fact, I don't want any more food.
Right. And so,
And
that's one of the life-changing things. I said, people overthink it. They overthink this whole thing. They're like, I'm gonna do 1 meal a day, or I'm gonna do modified, or I'm gonna do whatever. But here, what I find is, when I'm the low end of my weight range, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat more today.
Yes.
And then when I have overdone it, I'm not hungry. So today is probably going to be maybe a mini meal, or a down day, or a 1 meal and done.
Yes.
But if I don't have to think it. That's what I tell people. People say 3 years, that is tremendous willpower. And I say, willpower has nothing to do with this. It has nothing to do with it. I don't need it. It's just correcting those hormonal imbalances and knowing your body and listening to your body. And like I said, you can find your groove. And I believe anybody can, but it's very frustrating. And I talked about this with Jen Stevens, like, frustrating to me that it does not work the same for everybody, or in the same time frame.
I know.
I do too. I don't know why.
To lock arms and sing "Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya," and we're at the campfire together. Oh, I hate it when that happens.
But again, and I know you have realized this too, because you're a health coach, and you see so many different people with different personalities, different levels of metabolic health.
Yes.
And I think personality might be one of the biggest keys, because like you said, some people just they can't even ease in. They just can't do it,
Right.
And then there are those of us who are like, okay, I'm all in, and, that we hit our stride and go. And like I said, I think personality and different brain function, those things matter.
That's where ADD and ADHD is my superpower on things, because y'all, I get a lot done.
Me too.
My kids still are amazed by what I get done by 10 a.m.
Me too.
I just do it. I don't dawdle. I don't dilly dally. And I kind of hate it, because I also don't relax well.
Same here. So I don't sit. I don't watch TV. I don't read. I listen. I listen to. I love to plug in my AirPods, and my Audible library is full, but I don't sit and look at words on the page. Yeah. So I get you totally on that, and super productive. And so this energy, that's another thing, is I said in the beginning, I think it may have gave me too much energy, and this early eating window calms me down, so I can focus.
It's a rest and digest. It does. That's why in Jen Stevens, I know her point. It almost makes me sleepy sometimes after I've had a meal, even if it's a high fat protein and it's not a lot of carbs. My body has to stop a minute, digest, and then I can go about my day. So I can see how it would calm you down. It's soothing.
It does. It calms. Yeah, food calms me down, and I still am super productive. But I said in the beginning, the ketosis and that pure energy was so much that sometimes I thought I need to just take off running, and I'm sure I could fly. I felt like that.
So you're a beautiful girl, but I'm sure people are coming back going, where's the hottie at Bobby's? Because you're small, you're beautiful, you're the face of the restaurant. I'm sure your customers, your diners have noticed that you've made a major transformation.
Well, the joke in that is that I am never beautiful at work. I work in the kitchen. I look like my mother says I look like my papa, because I'll have on a hat and a ponytail and my glasses and no makeup.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't think they are lusting over me.
No, that's hilarious.
But yeah, it is the truth. The truth is, when I first lost the weight, I had customers, and they don't see me a lot. I come out of the kitchen occasionally, but when people would see me, they were like, what have you done? What has happened? I did have more than a few say, you're too thin. Have you lost enough? Are you finished? When are you going to stop losing weight?
And we don't know the answer. We don't know if we're finished, because it's our body's the one that picks the weight.
But after 3 years, they have adjusted to my new normal. I don't get that anymore. I don't get the you're too thin. Now, I do get your little bitty person. Everybody, that's the joke. How tall
are you?
I'm 5'3.5".
So 171 pounds is probably
size 12.
Okay,
I don't know if I was
obesity?
obese. Definitely overweight. I'm not
Okay.
even sure what my body mass index would have been, but
Yeah.
I went from a size 12 to a 2, and I have, zeros from Old Navy, and I don't count. I think Old Navy's a little bit,
I
they're a
think
little
Jen,
generous.
yeah, I think Jen says she did Old Navy and maybe
Yeah.
Ann Taylor, one of them that
Yeah.
they vanity size.
So a 2 and a small or extra small top, and I wore large, extra large tops. Of course, I had the big, the big chest before I got explant surgery,
Oh,
and
that's
so
right.
but that I carried inflammation in my chest and shoulders the entire time I had implants. And I said, no matter how much weight I lost, to me, I looked like a football player in pictures. I was so immediately after I started fasting, that inflammation in my chest left, and I'm like, I have collarbones and
Collarbones.
chest bones and
That's
those
one of my
things.
favorite things. So in my fasting group, it's 5 weeks. And the first week, I love how, I mean, I want the camera on so I can see them. Because by the 5th week, I say, what are your biggest changes? They'll say, my rings in the morning, I have no trouble getting them on. My
Right.
hands aren't swollen. And the next thing they say is, I have collarbones. And I
Collarbones.
think it's so cute. Or I don't have this inflammation under my chin and the puffy face. I love
Now,
hearing
I
that.
do have wrinkles post weight loss, but I said it's a
Oh,
good
you do?
trade off. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Well,
do. Look at
I've
that.
got a guy in Little Rock who can
Mhm.
help you with that.
Well, I have never started that yet because I am too ADHD to maintain it. Does that make sense? Like, I mean, I was supposed to go do what? My mom said that's my mean face has stuck right there. So
You're fine. You're fine. Tell me your longest fast you've ever done.
So Amy Jo and Alina Urbis
Yes.
and Roxy
Both.
Marino and I,
Yeah. Yes.
we did a 3 sleep fast.
Okay.
I think we did it in December. I'm not sure if it was December or January of this year, but it was for healing and it was for inflammation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I had COVID in July of 22.
Okay.
And then, and the reason I knew I was sick, no fever or anything, the reason I knew I was sick is I was having this unbearable aching pain in my hips and lower body, which I don't do anymore now that I'm a faster. That
Right.
was, I can stand 12 hours on my feet with not one ache or pain. But I had to go home from work. I was leaning against the counter, and that's how out of character it is. My mom said, "You're sick. You need to go home." And so I did end up testing for. I wouldn't have tested, but I own a restaurant. I can't be around people. So anyway,
I agree.
so I did have that, and so after that, that hip ache and pain continued to get worse and worse and worse, and I could not pin it back to an injury or anything I had done. And so even my massage therapist, she's like, well, we moved into a new restaurant and it's a bigger kitchen, maybe 3 times the size. She said, you're walking more. But I said, I've stood on concrete and walked forever with no issues. So all I could come up with was that I had triggered some kind of inflammation from maybe a long COVID or something. But anyway, so that was my reason for doing a long fast. Did not have weight to lose, but it was just, I just need to get this inflammation under control. And I will say that after that, I had a few really good days where I could tell I had made a difference. And then, as you eat some garbage, it's back. But now it's May, and I have not had hip pain probably in 2 months. And this is the kind of hip pain that was affecting my sleep. It was affecting my work. I had to give up all of my exercise. I could not go walk. I couldn't walk a mile. If I did, I couldn't do the elliptical, anything.
Okay. Let's break this down because gluten is a big offender and causes bursitis.
Yes.
Dairy
and that's what they
can't-
diagnosed it, bursitis.
Because my bursitis is, now that I haven't had gluten since March 1st, I haven't had bursitis or arthritis in my big toe.
So sugar, I know that
And
sugar does cause inflammation for me. And gluten, maybe. I don't do much bread. And so I would really have to look back at maybe dietary changes, but like I'm really into, I don't eat that many things in a day because I don't eat for that long, so like I might eat a lot of chicken and I'll do maybe chicken, rice, broccoli, a sweet potato, and then maybe my yogurt and banana. And that's, I don't feel like I have to have bread. White bread, no, never.
No, but wheat isn't a lot of things.
Everything. Yeah.
And that's why I've given up all packaged foods because, well, for one thing, they all have seed oils. How do y'all handle the seed oil thing there at a restaurant?
Okay. So this is one of the great conflicts of my life is that we've done this forever. So, the market has priced good quality oil out of restaurant business.
That's right. It's terrible.
They've almost priced seed oil out. Seed oil is cheap. It's garbage. It's cheaply produced. And the inflation on it is last year, this time, the inflation on it was about 300%.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm talking $17 for 35 pounds went to, well, maybe it was more than 300. It went to about $70 for 35 pounds.
What?
And that was, yes. And you could find it. Sometimes you couldn't get it from your grocer, and you could find it on Amazon for like $80 or $90. And we're talking about the lowest quality,
right,
like these stuff. But, so like in a restaurant, you don't have a choice. You're gonna fry French fries in vegetable oil. You just are.
Well, you know, but they used to McDonald's used to use pork lard. What about that?
And I don't know.
That affordable?
So I use lard and butter in everything that I can. You know.
Okay.
All right. But like we do deep fry still in. I'm sure sometimes it's canola. That's probably what I'm getting the most.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can get beef tallow like that anymore. Or if you can, I know you can't afford it.
No, right. It's very hard.
And the funny thing about this is, and like I said, it's one of those great conflicts of my heart.
I understand.
I have to make a living, you know.
That's right.
I do feel like a lot of consumers are very uneducated about what they're choosing.
Yes.
And obviously I'm not the food police, so I cannot tell them what to do. I don't eat it. You know what I mean?
I understand.
Like,
I do.
I sell the #1 chicken finger in Alabama, and I never pick one up. You know, like it is almost never.
Gosh.
And French fries don't really cross my radar as food. Yeah, you know, like I said, it's a conflict, and I want to offer things that are better alternatives for people. Of course, we have great salads, and I do vegetables and things like that. And like I said, I make cornbread with lard. If we do homemade biscuits, we make them with lard. That's just the way my mom cooks. Real butter is her thing.
Right.
You know, my mom has not bought margarine in so many years. We didn't, you know, she calls that plastic. We don't have it in our house.
It isn't it like one
molecule or something different.
Away from plastic, and like Velveeta's not real cheese, and American cheese is not real food, and all these things that we've been fed all these years. Now we wonder.
And so I think fasting, you know, helps us to balance. I wish everybody says that's duplicity of message there. Like you sell food and you're trying to talk people out of eating all the time. And I said, well, you know, like there's balance there. You give your body a time to detox and
you
whatever.
Have to
but
eat.
Of course,
we're promoting food.
Hey, I have a fasting group, you know, on Facebook, and that I preach all the time about, I know delay, don't deny means we can eat whatever we want, but I want you to put really good fuel in your body.
Right.
And I want you to eat at Bobby's because I need to pay my bills.
Honey, Darren's listening, my producer. We need to get a paddy wagon and come that way. Okay, yeah. I do need to know then, what's the key to good catfish? Do you bread it? Is it cornmeal or is it flour? Or is it both?
It's both. You have to. So we do 50-50 cornmeal, flour, salt and pepper. The key is that you wet it, no milk or anything. You wet catfish with water and then you batter cook immediately. If you don't cook it immediately, and like some restaurants do this, what they call a batter board, and they just batter in a whole bunch of them laying there, you know, you get this thick crust. I don't want that.
No, I don't either.
Because it won't get as good and done on the middle.
Because, you know, Arkansas is a big catfish producing state. Catfish, rice, soybeans. I mean, some things, you know, chicken. We have Tyson.
They're trying to make a living. Look.
Yeah, that's right. And I respect that. I just know, as for me in my house, you know, I can't.
Right. And in my house, you will not find any of that at my house either. You know, but we don't eat at home a whole lot. And my kids, I have tried to clean. I ruined my children, and I've had to repent, and I hope I get grandchildren to try to do better. So,
I ruined my children by telling them they had to eat breakfast.
Me too. Same. But now that's another one of those personality and circadian rhythm and individuality things is I have one son whose first sentence was, I eat now. And that was every morning. He waddled to the high chair as soon as he woke up and said, I eat now. And he still is exactly like that. When his feet hit the floor, he wants breakfast. Okay. But now he might not eat the rest of the day. You know, that was his personality as a child. No, lunch wasn't a big deal, supper maybe, but breakfast was his thing. And then I have two who've never wanted breakfast.
If there's ever a Mrs. Restaurant pageant in Alabama, I hope you enter because you'll win. You're a doll. You have a
Thank
great
you.
message. You're so inspiring. We'll put information about you in the show notes. How people, I mean, if they're ever in Eva, Alabama, north of Birmingham, my goodness. If you
And
don't
they
eat
can go
there-
to Facebook and still see pictures of my delicious food, even if they can't make it.
Okay. We'll put all that in the show notes. April, you're a doll. Thank you for being here. I'm going to cook the rest of my meal.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe and download all the episodes and leave a review, won't you? The Lisa Fisher Said podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.